way we think it should be kept.
But just to follow up, if you don't see the Fed forcing or changing their position in the next year or so, or forcing those loans out of the bank?
Boy, that's a tough one. What do you think from a political standpoint?
It depends on the borrower, the economy, the concentration in a particular bank. The Federal Reserve has probably been more reasonable on an anecdotal basis. The OCC has been, it's the FDIC and state charter banks that I've heard the things that most forceful efforts to try to restructure or push out loans. And I wish I could be more hard and fast on the situation. I think it's going to be, for capital issues, I mean, to change from the status quo, it's going to take from 6 to 18 months for them to enforce any new capital standards or things associated with commercial real estate lending or a lot of these other things that they're getting used to. We're going to see a tsunami wave of regulations coming up, and they have an incredible amount of power. I wish I could have more of a crystal ball to tell you what they were doing.
But speaking to that point, on the capital issue, what we're seeing is more and more banks getting told at their exams that because of their levels of commercial real estate, they need to increase their capital, which they have the leeway to do, even though here are the guidelines again, or even defined to the point where this is well capitalized. You go into an exam thinking, well, I'm well capitalized, and they're like, not anymore, because there's always a little line that, unless we change our minds, and that's how the rules are written, unfortunately, and that's where some of these equity requirements and loan-to-value issues will come in. In a way, it's almost, if you've been around a really long time, like our bank, 56 years, you're going to have a harder time than if you're brand new and didn't have long-time customers that have been paying and that you've lived with through the ups and downs for 20, 30 years. So it's an interesting dynamic, but I am convinced that, you know, probably in 10 years, I won't come to the luncheon, but, you know, it'll be blowing and going again, and there'll be all kinds of competitors, and there'll be LIBOR minus 18, and who knows what going on. So I believe in the spirit of capitalism and that we're gonna figure this out, and we'll just go on with the new rules for a while, and it'll get better.
Next question.
You know what, instead of taking this just on the chin, it's coming down the pipeline, you know, I go to a lot of events, political events, and the politicians are telling us as business owners, because actually I'm a client of Omni Bank, telling us as business owners how they're working to help get things back in place and get the loan, get the money moving. However, my loan officer is telling me you need to call the regulator because they're giving us this direction to do this and do that. And it just seems like we're just waiting for it all to get put in place and live with it. And
Well,
that's what we should be doing.
no, anyone that would like to call their congressman or send a letter about the financial regulations, please do, because it is going to affect banks' ability to do certain things. We're not really taking it on the chin. As John said, we've been to Washington more times, I think, since January, and in the last 18 months than I've probably been in my whole life. And it's not been a fun trip. The politicians do, as normals, tell us one thing, and then there are ways for regulators to not have to wait on what they do. And I do believe a lot of the congressional delegation believes they've done the right thing in voting on some of these bills. It's just when it gets translated into the regulations, it's different. And the only people that can change that are the people who appoint the heads of these agencies and go on down the road. So we don't want to take it on the chin. John can say we've had more people attend congressional visits, up like 1,000, which doesn't sound like a lot, but bankers have traditionally thought we're good guys, we can sit here and they're not going to do anything to us because we're loaning to small businesses, we're loaning for things that are going on.
And as an aside, I know that there might be many of you his employers are concerned about things like healthcare and others that, are very concerned about the fall elections, and so are we. We haven't surrendered yet. In fact, we're gonna be involved, possibly involved in some races in some other states, to try to change the balance of power to a more pro-business environment. So this is not just a surrender strategy. We're into a modification, not necessarily a repeal, carve out some things that we think will help the banks and thereby help the business borrower. And that will depend a lot on what happens in the November elections.
One more thing that you're probably hearing from Congress is the $30 million stimulus package that they're calling the small business stimulus package. And you may think, well, every bank ought to be happy. They're gonna get money and then they can turn around and loan it out to small business. $30 billion, right? But as I told someone earlier, the devil's in the details. And it's just like with the TARP money, most banks, once they read the details, wouldn't wanna go into that unless they absolutely had to because of the unwritten rules and the power that the government would then have over your bank or your institution. So we're waiting to see. It hadn't been passed yet by the Senate. I think if it's done correctly, it would be a great thing. But is it gonna cost me more than it will be worth if I have to do a certain kind of reporting in a certain format? How are they gonna count what's an increase in small business lending versus what isn't? Those kinds of things, and so even if the bill passes, you might not see all the banks jumping up to take their share or their amount that they could qualify for, because it may be something that's so onerous or so expensive, it really, the cost benefit will not be there. I'm hoping that that's not the case. But the other thing that happened, and the reason it didn't get passed before they went on, whatever they call it, their summer recess, wish I got recess now, was some other amendments that had nothing to do with the small business stimulus got hung into it. One of them was on interchange fees, which you really don't want to know about, and that caused the bankers to really not want it to pass because of some of these things that had nothing to do with the original premise and the original purpose. So that's what happens too. You get amendments that have nothing to do with anything.
As a follow-on to his gentleman's question, is there anything on the Texas Banking Association website or anything like that that might help people with how to formulate a statement to their representatives?
You know, let me add to that is, while it's being discussed in Congress and Senate, is there something being related to RER or Texas Bankers Association so that it's being analyzed, hey, this is what this is gonna cause. So that we're not waiting for the law to be completed. We're already calling on congressmen and senators that says, if this is passed this way, these are the problems you're gonna cause us as the clients, the end user, the business owner.
We know there will be increased costs, but at this stage in the signing of the bill on July 21st, and in fact, it's some of the head people who are gonna be, the personalities of who will be heading these agencies, who are gonna dramatically affect it. What I can do is, work with Phil or one of your designees as these issues come up and give you access to our website for communications and make it pretty simple.
Yeah.
Kind of a point and click, give your zip code, and it will go to your member of Congress.
Yeah, it's called CapWiz, and it's a really, really quick and easy way to send both to senators and your congressional representative a letter that already has, and you can customize it too and say, I'm a small business person, and at the appropriate paragraph, but it's a pretty nifty tool, so.
Yeah, we can post that on our website.
Or however it works, or click through, or, I'm not a techie, so I don't know.
Melanie?
Okay, concerning the elections coming up, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but is it really gonna make a difference? There's a lot of apathy from just a lot of people saying, I just give up, you know, it's gotten out of control, and a lot of people that are really sure that their changes can be made. So with the elections, what do you foresee, if anything, that'll change, maybe go to the bill, or just throw it out there?
The elections were held today. There's a high likelihood that the more than 39 seats will change hands in the U.S. House of Representatives by more than the 40 to 46 range, giving Republicans control of that body. It's probably about a 30% chance that the Senate will be controlled by Republicans. What does that mean